Hi, everyone. What grade are you guys in? Third grade? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. You guys are old. Wow, look how big you are. My name is Tommy the Trout. Do you know where I live? Right down the street in the Yamhill River. That's where I live right now. You know, when I was your guys' age, some of the kids were bullies to me. They used to call me names. They used to call me McFishface. And it was horrible. I hated being called McFishface. So, will you guys be nice to me today and just call me Tommy the Trout?
Yeah!
I love it. Thank you very much. I am here today to talk about TMDL. Do you know what that is? Do you know what it spells?
No.
You get, doesn't it spell like Timdal? No? Does it stand for something maybe?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Do we know what it stands for? T is for what?
Total.
All right. And then
Maximum.
good. And then we have daily and load. So you guys go total maximum daily load. What does that mean, right? Well, total maximum daily load is the most amount of pollution we can put into our water systems without getting in trouble, okay? In other words, before we get sick or anything happens to us, we don't want to go over the total maximum daily load. If we put in too many bad things in our water, right, we're going to go above the total maximum daily load, all right? And there are a lot of different ways that we can put bad things into our water. So first of all, let's talk about, these are the kinds of water resources that I live in and that you probably even swim in sometimes. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's creeks. We even have oceans, right, that we swim in. And all of these are things that if we don't take care of them properly, then they're going to cause problems for me and could cause problems for you as well. The next thing we have here is the sources of our water pollution. So we're going to talk about different ways that we pollute the waterway. But what I'm going to give you guys 5 or 6 different ways that things happen, okay? And some of these, you guys are going to go, ugh, that's disgusting. The first one is, what happens when we get, that previous slide shows me what happens if that stuff gets in the water, right? You know what happens to me? I get sick. And if I get sick, I could die, right? Yeah. And we don't want that to happen, do we? You guys like me, right? You don't want me to die, do you? All right. So the first thing we can look at is industrial waste. This is when there are like factories or places that are near rivers or lakes or different water sources. And all of a sudden they're pouring pollution from the factory into those rivers and lakes and oceans, right? And what that does is pollute the water and make it unhealthy for me to live in or for you to eat things out of the water. Yes. What is pollution? Okay, pollution is when we add things, okay, that are bad for us, okay, to be able to eat or breathe, those kinds of things. It's when we do things to the environment, okay? We all know what the environment is, right?
Yeah.
When we do bad things to the environment, that's not healthy for you guys, and it's certainly not healthy for me, as you're gonna find out. The next thing after industrial waste is plastic. Okay, how many of you guys drink water or out of plastic bottles, right? Everybody hands goes up, right? Could be water, could be Coke, could be this, could be that, right? Well, a lot of times people don't do the right things with their plastic and they throw it in the water or they throw it on the ground or this and that. Then it ends up in our water supply. And then what happens? And I get sick, right? Yeah, that's what can happen. The next thing we have is sewage. Does anyone know what sewage is? Yeah. Sewage comes from flushing the toilet, those kinds of things. And hopefully, okay, we're treating our sewage before it gets in our water with things that make it so it's not so stinky and no good. But I'll tell you what, I do not like this. When I'm swimming in the water and I come and run into sewage, that is disgusting. I hate it. So that's another way it happens. And sometimes it just happens accidentally, right? Sometimes we have accidents where pollution gets in the water, right? And it just happens, but we try to make sure it doesn't if we can, okay? Okay, let's go to the next one, okay? Fertilizer and pesticides. So listen, sometimes we need fertilizers and pesticides, right? Because we're growing crops and we have weeds and things like that. And obviously we have to control those so that we can make food that we can all eat. But what happens is sometimes it rains. Does it rain here ever? Yeah. It does rain here, doesn't it? And when it rains, sometimes before those chemicals get in the ground, they run off into our water or into our rivers and our streams. And then that can be very poisonous to me as well. So anyway, these things go into your rivers, right? Because sometimes we have to use them, but we try to minimize how much that happens. The next thing that happens out here is petroleum and gas. Okay, so this really is mostly about oceans, right? Because birds go to the ocean and sometimes there are oil spills in the ocean and things like that. And the birds fly down and they land on the ocean and they get oil on them and grease and gas and things like that. And that makes it very difficult for them to what? Fly, exactly. And birds are meant to fly. They don't really swim. They do stay on top of the water, but they're meant to fly. And if they get that on themselves, not a good thing, right? They get and sick. And then what happens? They can, absolutely. Okay. Our next little slide here is, anybody know what this is? Yeah, did you ever think that was pollution? Okay, how many of you have dogs? Whoa, that's a lot of you that have dogs. And when you take your dog out on a walk or to the dog park, do you look for bags to be able to clean up after them?
Yeah.
You do that? Yeah. That's good, because what happens with this is, again, the rain comes down and it dissolves it and it goes off into the streams and the rivers, and I get sick. So anything you can do to help clean up after your dog is going to make our rivers and streams and lakes and oceans a lot cleaner. Okay? Yeah, cats, it can happen with any animal, right? But certain animals, like our dogs that we keep in our house or in our yard, those are easier to kind of control, right? Cats, how many have cats here? Okay. How many have a cat box at home? Of course you do, because that keeps your cat's feces, as it's called, in a contained area. So it doesn't go into the groundwater and things like that. Okay, so now you have all these different ways that pollution happens, right? You've just seen 6 different ways that we have pollution. Now, the next slide is going to talk about what you were talking about here, recycling, okay? These are ways that we can cut down on pollution, right? So like if we recycle our plastic, it keeps it from going into our rivers and oceans. Have you guys heard about this thing in the ocean lately? We've put so much plastic in the ocean that some of it has created islands. Islands that are huge and big, right off our coast in the Pacific Ocean here. Huge plastic ones. And what happens to our animals in the ocean when there's plastic? They could choke. Sick? They could die because sometimes they get caught up in it, right? And then they can't swim out of it. And then, yeah, that's what could happen. It could be terrible for them. So this is really, really important, because this is becoming a bigger and bigger thing, okay? Somebody also mentioned earlier, and I was going to talk about the oceans. Right now on the Pacific coast, further down in California, there are a lot of fish and animal life dying. Sea lions, seals, all sorts of things. And part of the reason is the water is warming up, okay? And it's creating what's called algae, okay? Which is like a green form that's in there. And it's making them sick. But those things happen because, in part, because of pollution. And that's another reason why we want to make sure that we keep our waters and streams and everything else clean, right? I even know a river back in the state of Ohio that had so much pollution in it that it caught fire. And there was fire all over the river. Can you imagine that? You wouldn't want to be swimming then. I certainly don't want to be in that river, right? Here's another one. Here, we're going to go to the next slide. Chemical disposal. Okay, we talked about the beginning. Industrial waste, right? What did you see this? This is fabric that's been dyed, okay? And after you dye fabric, you have to get rid of the chemicals. So you pour the chemicals down the drain, they go into the sewer system, they flow out to the river and then into the ocean. And what does that mean? More pollution, more sickness. I get sick again, is what happens. Every time that kind of chemicals get poured into the water source, okay? The next slide that shows things we can do. Car maintenance, right? Lots of cars, right? Guys, anybody here have a car? Or a parent have a car? You guys aren't old enough to have cars. Are you kidding me? No. But your parent, does any parent here have a car? Okay. Here, you see this? Car's got a leak, doesn't it? Oil goes on the ground. What happens then?
It goes down to the drain.
How does it? Yeah, because of the rain, it goes down the drain, right? Yep, the rain carries it down the drain, and then it goes back in. It could get in our water again, and then I get sick. Exactly. The next thing is pet waste again. Picking up after your pet prevents waste from going in the water. And then again, it makes it healthy. Do you guys drink water at all?
Yeah.
You do? Just, yeah, you want to make sure what you're drinking is clean and doesn't have any of that in it, do you? Yeah, that's kind of gross, isn't it? Oh, can you imagine? So we really want to make sure, again, we talked about this earlier, but we want to make sure we pick up after our pets, okay? Again, you want to be drinking safe drinking water, right? You don't want to be drinking polluted water. The next slide shows you who I am right now. Of course, I'm out of the water right now. How did I get out of the water?
You're a human though.
How did I get out of the water?
You're a human.
No, I got a hall pass today. Have you guys ever gotten a hall pass? No? So you guys are locked in here, right?
Yeah.
Does anyone go to the office ever?
You work in a
You work in the office? Yeah, you think I do? When this is over, you guys, I am going to look for some clean water, let me tell you. And you know what else? Have you guys ever, is there anything that lives in the water and lives on the land? Amphibians? Toads? Yeah? Turtles do. Yeah. So it's not just me. It's just not fish, you guys. It's not just fish. It's lots of things that live in our water, right? Lots of things. And so when we pollute our water, we're not just hurting me or fish. We're hurting a lot of different animal species, right? And the worst part is, do you guys, anybody here eat fish at all?
Yeah. I love sushi. So delicious.
You got,
I would eat it.
okay, wait a minute. You guys wouldn't eat me, would you? Oh, man. I'm kind of starting to back up with you guys. I mean, that's the last thing I need is to be eaten by a bunch of third graders. Oh, my gosh. But this is a picture of a rainbow trout, okay? I'm not a rainbow. I'm a trout, but I'm not a rainbow. But this is a healthy rainbow, okay? This is one with color, and he's alive, and he's flourishing because he's in clean water, okay? So it's super, super important that you guys think about what you do every day. Try to recycle, right? Try to make sure you see things happening that should be corrected that, look like they're polluting. Tell somebody to help you, okay? Lots of different ways in which we can cut down on pollution and make our water, which is what's the most important thing to be able to live as third graders?
Water.
Exactly. Water is the most important thing. Well, I just want to say one thing, okay? You guys have been fantastic today. I love your questions. I love your enthusiasm, your participation, okay? So that means I never go anywhere without, some things to give you guys so that you can remember about TMDL. Your whole thing is brought to you by the city of Dayton, okay? Because we are required to try and keep our water clean for all of you, okay? If too many people pollute the water, well, sometimes what happens then, you have to shut down your water source, right? There's times when you can't go swimming at the ocean, even in a river, because of too much pollution. So that's the way we deal with it, is we close it all down. Do I have a job? Yeah, my job is to come here and educate you all about pollution, TMDL, and not making me sick. That's my real job. Because I really want more and more kids in particular, because you're going to be the future. I want more and more of you guys to realize how important it is to not pollute our waters, because that's going to make us all happier as we get older, right? If all the fishes are sick, well, one of the things that's really bad is because you guys all said lots of you eat fish, right? What if you eat a sick fish?
Then you get sick.
That's what can happen, right? You could get sick. And that you never know what could happen when you get sick, right? So it's really important that, again, we take care of the environment that things that we eat live in, right? Why can I talk?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a really smart fish, really smart. Yeah, you mean the thing I was talking about, that river that caught fire? Because they threw gasoline in the water. And when you have gasoline, it floats on top.
Yeah.
And if you light a match, it'll actually light up, which is super scary, right? Super scary. I don't know, because I've never jumped into a fire, or I've been in a river on fire. I'm hoping I never get to live in a river on fire. That would be very hot, wouldn't it? Okay, are you guys ready for something special?
Yeah!
All right, you've been really good. So my helpers here are going to help you by giving you a little bit of things. Remember, this is to remember to be about TMDL and pollution and taking care of our environment, okay?